One of the biggest criticisms of The Legend of Korra that I've seen is that it's too Western or too modern. Let's take these criticisms apart one at a time. It's pretty clear that Republic City has elements of 1920s New York. I mean, there's a giant statue of Avatar Aang that's clearly meant to evoke the Statue of Liberty, though there are some elements that are not from New York City at all. Kwang's cuisine, which showed up in Season 1, is based off the Tianyu building in Shanghai, which is a department store. Meanwhile, we do get an American thing with the Sawtomobile, which is based off the Model T sedan. And now that I say that out loud, Sawtomobile being a pun of automobile makes so much sense. Meanwhile, there's the Pro Bending Arena, which I'm pretty sure is based off the Golden Temple in India. I personally don't think it's too Western because of one thing. The 1920s had Western-style cities, and even before the 1920s had Western-style cities like Shanghai, and Hong Kong, and even Tokyo. You know that scene in Demon Slayer where Tanjiro is utterly shocked at Tokyo? Yeah, Demon Slayer takes place in the 1910s. While I'm talking about Japan, let's talk about one of the staples of anime, the school uniform. Specifically, the Gakuran. This is something actually adopted from the West. Wikipedia says it may have been adopted from the cassock used by Roman Catholics, but, well, it has a citation needed next to it. Yet when you show it in any piece of media outside of anime, you'll probably have your mind jump to Japan. Cultures blend and make things their own, whether it's through non-violent means like trade, or through less than pleasant means like war, subjugation, and colonialism. Cultures change and evolve, either by force or by choice. People uptake foreign elements all the time and incorporate it into their own cultural practices. When Japan westernized their military, they took on Western-style swords, foregoing the traditional style swords that Japanese always used up till then. Before the wave of ultranationalism hit and then it adopted Vitachi-style Shingun-to, but that's a different story. Now, just because I don't have a problem with the look doesn't mean I don't have a problem with the storytelling. Anyone who knows me long enough knows that I am really critical of the storytelling of The Legend of Korra. I do think the root of the issue is that the idea of progress versus tradition. And when you have the Western aesthetics of Korra and you equate that with progress, it makes it seem like the show's trying to imply that the more Asian-inspired cultures they used in Avatar: The Last Airbender are somehow outdated or backwards. Let's compare Republic City to Ba Sing Se. I doubt it's intentional, but it does give the impression that Ba Sing Se is a relic of the past and it should stay in the past, versus Republic City being the bastion of progress. I don't think that was intentional again, but I can see how people can read into that. At a dinner, there's Su Yin Beifong commenting that the Earth Monarch is a relic of the past. Putting aside the fact we don't know much about Zafu's government, much at all, to the point I think Su Yin might actually just be a local noble, I mean, where did this concept of identity come from? This concept of progress versus tradition, this modernization theory, which, honestly, I think there's a historian, I think his name is Blout, that basically says, yeah, modernization's nonsense, but I'm not here to talk about the real world. That much, at least. I know the comics have this whole thing about Yudao being the oldest Fire Nation colony in the Earth Kingdom, and thus people identified strongly with the Fire Nation over the Earth Kingdom, but this identity crisis of Fire Nation within the Earth Kingdom is a bit underbaked in the political side of things. I think the Earth Kingdom honestly would be the most interesting place to explore a democracy, because it is the most diverse of the four nations in terms of culture. People pledged their loyalty to a local lord, and then those lords in turn pledged their loyalty to the Earth King in Ba Sing Se. But let's say they question why they swore fealty to a monarch in the first place. Why does that monarch have to swear loyalty to another monarch? Especially after all this fell apart when the Fire Nation attacked. Who gets to rule over them next, and why does that person get the right to rule? Is this some kind of vaguely defined spirit of ruling or heaven's mandate? Is it military conquest and right of conquest, might makes right? Will of the people? Well, who defines the people in the will of the people? Are slaves considered to be part of the people since we know warlords and slave soldiers exist from police backstory? Are women considered to be part of the people since we know that some places are clearly more misogynistic than others in this universe? What about the many cultures of the Earth Kingdom? Should they be considered part of the people, or are they just the barbarians, and that the people should subjugate them by removing their culture? And does the identity of a collective national identity exist, and should it exist? Some of these may come off as, well, duh, or why on earth would you say that? But they are questions that we had to come up with and answer in our history. I'm hoping this is something Avatar Studio goes into. Not the whole develop the Earth Kingdom identity thing, but more about the development of ideas that do show up in The Legend of Korra, such as civil rights, which was under Amon's season, or colonialism, which was Unalaq's whole deal, anarchism, which was Red Lotus's whole deal, and nationalism, which was Kuvira's whole deal. As for the other question, is technology too modern in The Legend of Korra? No. This show takes place 70 years after Avatar The Last Airbender. We had trucks, we had airships, we had exploding javelins. Civilianizing all this isn't going to be too much of a challenge, not to mention bending exists, so forgive me for believing technology can move a bit faster with the right innovator. That's not too much of a stretch. Well, that's all for this video. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.